what it's like every time.
Yep.
All right. Can everybody kind of see me? I'll have to turn the camera a little bit. But hello, everyone. I am joined here by my father, who will be known henceforth as Dad. So...
I think I was always Dad.
Yes. And let me just get to the comment section. No ads. Hello, Daniel. Yes, this is my dad. He is Dad. Or father. So we have quite a little feast today of stuff. We have the cucumber sandwiches today, and we also have the freshly made Scottish shortbread, as well as the chocolate-covered McVitie's. So let's see. Everyone's saying hi, Dad. Hello, Dad.
Hi again.
Let's see. So yeah, this is one of those rare occasions where I actually get to use the whole tea set, pretty much, for two people. And so right now I have all the stuff heating up with warm water. I gave myself the cracked ones, so that way you don't have to get lead poisoning. So, let's see. Maverick says, "Hey Alex, I wish I could be wearing my suit, but I'm a little under the weather right now." Oh, okay. I hope you feel better. Jeez. I know a lot of people are getting sick right now.
Yeah, that's going around.
Doc says, "Hi, Dad. We love Alex. He's a good egg and super talented."
I'm glad. Glad to hear that.
Let's see. Tyler, good luck on getting your new place. Doc, I'm glad you're enjoying Chapter 5. Pretty cool. Hey, Steve, how's it going? Alright, so to make the sandwiches, you have to cool them in the refrigerator for like a few hours ahead of time, so that way you can cut them more easily. So they actually just came out of the freezer. They'll defrost very quickly, but we still need to give them like a minute or two to defrost. Let's see. We got Brian here. Hi, Alex and Mr. Adner. I hope both of you are doing well. Let's see. Daniel says, "Hey Alex, I was researching Hikawa Maru and it said she survived 3 mines in World War II. Wow. Yeah, I don't know much about the Hikawa Maru, but I do know it is a Japanese ocean liner, that's for sure." Oh, that's right, Doc. You're in Florida, so right now you got that hurricane that's going overhead. Hurricane Nicole. Alright, so I'm going to start the hot water, and then we're going to preheat this stuff, which will be interesting, because that's a lot of water to dump out. And then we'll brew the tea, and then we'll get to eating. So I'll bring you guys with me, but I won't be on camera.
Okay, so my friend Candace says hello.
Oh, hello, Candace. Are you here on the chat right now?
She is, but she hasn't subscribed yet, so she can't ask questions.
You guys, you gotta subscribe. It'll take 20 minutes. If for anybody that subscribes right now, it'll take 20 minutes before you can write a comment in the chat. Let's see. Oh, Maverick says, "Hey Alex, what type of music does your dad like?"
I am an 80s kid, so I grew up with The Cure, Susie and the Banshees. I like my very first band I really liked was Duran Duran, and then about a year later it went into The Cure. So that was about 1981, 82 when I first heard Boys Don't Cry on world famous K-Rock, which used to be on Pasadena, or used to be in Pasadena in a radio station in LA. So yes, I am a very big fan of The Cure. I go watch them every time they're around, and just to let you know, off the subject of Alex's, The Cure is coming back with a new album next month, and they will be touring here in the US next year. They're right now starting their world tour, which started last month in Europe. So I can't wait.
Yeah, he's a big Cure fan, and I grew up listening to The Cure as well, and all the music that he listens to. So I pretty much like all the stuff he likes, plus extra. So, yeah. Doc says, "Dad, how about Depeche Mode?" Oh my God, I love your dad.
Yes. Depeche Mode was my very first concert I ever went to go see. I am in the movie 101, which was the very first concert I went to go see. Very funny story about that, which I don't think Alex knows, but that was my very first concert. The very first concert I really wanted to go see was The Cure, which was 1987, I believe. It was the Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me tour. But my friends that had a car at the time didn't want to drive, and they weren't quite sure what to take of The Cure at the time. So I missed out on that, which was at the Forum in LA. And then the very following year, 1988, was Depeche Mode. They announced a very big concert at the Rose Bowl. I went to go see them. I am one of the people in the background yelling. You can hear me saying, that's what, I'm one of them. But I am in the video. It's very quick. It's very cool. One of my friends spotted us when the VHS came out back in 1989, I believe was the following year when it came out. And he spotted us and he slowed it down at his house, and definitely was us right there. And anyways, to get to the story, I had asked my mom to borrow the car, and I was barely driving. I got my driver's license when I was 16, so that was 1986. And I was a new driver, so I didn't think my mom would, want me to borrow the car. So I let her know, hey, we're going to go to an amusement park. And my mom said, oh yeah, I'll go ahead and take the car. Well, that night my mom was watching the news, and of course Depeche Mode was a big thing. It was the Rose Bowl. It was all over the news. And my sister was watching the news with my mom, and my sister says, oh, that's where Joe's at. And so, yeah, so when I got back, my sister told me, and my mom confronted me saying, oh, you didn't go to the amusement park after all, did you? And I said, no, I went to a concert thinking that you wouldn't let me borrow the car to go so far. And luckily, my mom said, well, you'll never know now, will you? So I didn't get in trouble.
Oh, gosh. I can't imagine Grandma being strict like that. She was always very lenient with me.
Yeah.
Opera, to answer your question, my favorite ship is the Queen Mary. Do you have a favorite ship, Dad? Any ship, even a warship.
The USS Enterprise. I really love that. I can't wait for the new commissioned one that's coming out, I think, in a couple of years. They're almost halfway done with it, I think.
Yeah, and I don't have a favorite warship necessarily. But yeah, my favorite ocean liner is the Queen Mary, and but I do like Titanic to a certain degree. Yeah, I mean, I even have a model of the Titanic sitting here in the background for those of you who may or may not have seen it. Okay, I'm gonna put this next to you guys.
Okay. So some people want us to dig in already.
Yeah, well, we have to get the tea. There's a protocol to this, which is that you brew the tea, you have tea with your sandwiches first, and then you get to the sweets afterwards.
I think that's almost all the time, right? When you're having dinner, then you have dessert at the end.
Yeah, but when I first started doing this, I was having the sweets first and the sandwiches after.
Yeah, I know some people that like their desserts first too.
Oh, I'm supposed to do half. Let's see. So this is part of the preheating phase of the china. This is authentic bone china, so you can't just you can't just pour straight boiling water in there, or else the china will crack from the thermal shock. Oops.
So this is the second time I'm having tea.
It
Or
is?
tea time, yes. The first time was in Hong Kong.
Oh, really?
Yes. It was at the Disneyland Hotel in Hong Kong, and had tea time there. So
Oh.
it was pretty much this. They had little sandwiches and scones and little pastries. It was pretty good. Do you want me to take that?
Well, no, that's okay. Because I'll need it in a second.
Okay.
Well, actually, yeah. Because it'll need to eventually get boiled again. So can you put that back on the base?
Sure. You want to put it down?
Yeah. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. I'm all out of sorts. I forgot to preheat these two, so...
You want to pour?
Just top them off, yeah.
All right.
Okay. So Doc, thank you so much for the donation. Alex, Chapter 5 left me wanting more stories. Any tales from the wartime service of Queen Mary you can tell? Tell Dad Depeche Mode is on tour now again.
Yes, I do know Depeche Mode's on tour right now. Unfortunately, I was hoping that they would come up here to Seattle or to Portland, but they aren't. The closest venue right now is in San Jose.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'd rather see The Cure.
Okay, let me get to... My friend Steve says, your dad and I are pretty close in age. I turned 50 in 2 weeks, so he's a couple years older.
Happy birthday. Yes, I just turned 52.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to believe, because when I think of my dad, I always imagine him in his 30s. But then that doesn't make sense, because I'm in my 30s.
It's okay. I imagined myself when I was 21, so... The older you get, sometimes you feel like you're still young, so you never kind of grow into your age. I think it's more now my generation that's thinking that way, that you basically don't grow into your age. You're more the way you were or when you grew up. I know that we get more responsibilities when we grow up, but what I'm talking about is the feelings inside. You feel like you're still 21, you still feel young, that kind of thing.
It's kind of like like an inner clock, because like for me, like whenever I read like a piece of history and it says, oh, something happened in 1940 something, I read it and I go, oh, that was like 60 years ago. But then when I do the math, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, every time I do the math, I'm always thinking it's like 2005 or something. So that's kind of like when my mental clock kind of stopped. It doesn't like occur to me that it's been 20 years since the early 2000s.
Yeah. I believe the word for it is called arrested development. So you kind of feel young, but yet you're old.
Okay. Could you go back and turn on the kettle, please?
Yes.
And then it should boil like almost immediately, so if you could bring it back here then. Hello, Mike. Daniel asks, do you also like model trains?
Yes, I do actually. I do like model trains. In fact, I think I got Alex into model trains because when he was younger, I used to take him to a model train store in Westminster, which is called Arnie's Trains. I believe it's still there. And he used to like looking at their big set. Also, we were going to build one together. We started to, but then we had to move, that kind of thing. So I like the HO scale. He first started off with the N scale because he liked that better. But yeah, I do like trains.
Oops.
You're good.
Okay. It's probably going to overflow once I put the tea in there.
All right.
Okay. All right. You could take that back. Okay, 426. So 31. Oh. So you know the story about this China, Dad?
No.
Okay, so all this China here came from ships like the RMS Queen Mary and the companion ship RMS Queen Elizabeth, and then there might be some from random other Cunard liners like RMS Sylvania or Caronia. And so the stuff that is like really white, that is bone china. So it's like the best china that they had on the Queen Mary.
Mm-hmm.
And then these two plates here are, it's also china, but it's something called ivory ware. So I think this probably, well, Steve, you're in the chat. So I have the bone china, which is white, but I have these two matic ones that are ivory ware. Were these also first class, or were they second or third class? They still have the stripes on them. But while he's answering that, because we're on a delay, so...
Yeah.
What was I going to say? Oh, but you see the stripes on all the stuff. So the stripes are meant to represent because there's 2 orange stripes for those that can't see, and then there's 1 gray stripe. The orange stripes are said to represent the sun setting over the North Atlantic. It won't sit properly.
Okay.
Yeah.
This one here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But also the stripes along the sides, too. Yeah. So it's supposed to represent the sun setting over the North Atlantic. So, yeah, and all this stuff was used on those ships. So people actually ate and drank from this stuff. The newest piece I have is from 1967. The oldest piece I have is from 1952. But there are some people have a collection that dates back all the way to 1936, which I wish I had that, but those don't usually last very long. Let's see. So we got 3 minutes on that tea. Oh, Daniel says he's been to Arnie's train store before.
Okay. So Candace subscribed, so...
Oh, so my friend Steve... Oh, wait. So Steve says... The Foley pattern was first class. Matic ivory ware in that pattern in second class. So these are from second class, and the rest I have are from
first class.
From first class. But before he said that, he wanted me to tell you about his train. So my friend Steve, he owns a passenger coach. It's like a combination, like, what is it again? It's there's small rooms in it for sleeping, but then there's like a main room, but I don't know what all was in there. But it's a life-size car from the 1950s. Is that right? Yeah. So he's been restoring it, and it's all the way in Arizona. So he goes there every couple of weeks or months, and then he goes there and like does restoration work on it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the 1930s style trains. It's different from what Alex likes. I like the big boy engines and the passenger cars from the 1930s and 40s. So those are the kind I have. I have a River Rossi big boy engine.
Do you also like the 1930s streamlined steam?
Not really. I know they were made to look futuristic, but no, I kind of like the old-fashioned steam trains. Not as far back as what Alex likes, because he likes the Jupiter class and that kind, but more of the 1930s style ones.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. I'm not much of a fan of the streamlined trains either. And just like my dad said, like, the trains I like usually are narrow gauge, and it's before the year 1900 is usually my favorite ones. And even if it's not narrow gauge, then it's the standard gauge, but also before the year 1900 is usually the trains I like. Okay, so Steve says it was originally a full sleeping car built in 1949 with bedrooms, but it now has a lounge that was put in by the previous owner.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And where do you keep this? In your backyard?
No, there's a museum that has like a lot of cars and things, and so he keeps it on the museum property.
Oh, okay.
And apparently there's a lot of private car owners that keep their cars there.
Oh, okay.
And some of them will even hook up the cars on occasion and take them somewhere. So, yeah. He says, not Amtrak operable yet, but I intend to make it. So I think that he can, like, hire Amtrak to, like, put his car on a train.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've actually seen it on the way back from San Francisco back to Southern California. I saw one of them on the side of the freeway. It was running along the side of the freeway there on the 101, and it had a private car stuck to it.
Stir. Oops. Okay. Now, when you pick this up,
Yes.
you're gonna make sure to put your thumb or
yeah.
or another finger on top.
All right. Did you want to empty this out?
Yeah, I will. Let me just get mine. So the teapot that I'm letting my dad use is the one that's intact, but the one I'm using is the one I never use because it's cracked. The previous owners, whoever they were, didn't know that you can't just pour boiling water into a cold teapot. So there's like cracks all around the bottom and the sides, and so I can see the tea seeping out of it right now. But it's a very slow leak, so it's not a big problem. Okay, so I have sugar over here, and then that's the milk, and then we'll put these tea things behind. So
no cubes, so no lump or two, right?
Yeah, I don't have a cube. Some people do cubes, but I'm always baking, so I just buy the loose sugar. So this is Earl Grey tea.
That's pretty good. I like that.
Yep, it's my favorite one. Gonna read some comments in just a second, you guys.
So for those of you who've been waiting, we're going to start on the sandwiches.
Yes.
Because I've been getting a lot of questions on that. When are we going to start on the sandwiches?
All right. Daniel says, Alex, what type of engine do you like from before the 1900s besides 440s, 244? But me personally, I love 460 10-wheelers. I don't mind the 10-wheelers as long as they're just not like ridiculously large. Again, I don't think that, I think pretty much any 10-wheeler I can think of before the 1900s is cool. I also like porters a lot, so porters are cool. I do like some shays. So there's actually, come to think of it, there's a shay here by the Portland Forest Park. They have one up there. Remember when we first came here, we stopped by the shay?
Yeah.
So the right way to hold the teacup is to pinch with your fingers there, and then you support with your other middle fingers.
I believe that's what I was doing.
Oh, okay.
My fingers are too big to stick in there.
Okay. I haven't had one of these cucumber sandwiches in a while because always trying to time the grocery order with the tea time without letting the groceries go bad is not easy.
They are really good.
You think so?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I like the dill in it. Pretty good.
Yeah, some recipes don't have the dill. They're just like, it's just like cream cheese and cucumbers, but I like flavor. So I put the dill in there and garlic and salt. Eternal Travel says, I love the Perry Marquette 1225. What is the Perry Marquette? Nikolaus. Yeah, we have the 4449 here. Ozzy asks, did your dad know the USS Gerald R. Ford was going to be named USS Enterprise, but they changed the name to USS Gerald R. Ford because he passed away?
Yes, I did know that. I knew that, but I'm glad that they did call it that because the new USS Enterprise is going to be the new type of U.S. aircraft carrier, which is in X type, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So can't wait to see it.
I bet you guys are happy because there's finally someone here who will talk about warships.
I do like warships. U.S. Navy mostly. I don't know too much about any other ones. I do know some of the World War II ones, Japanese ones, and the U.S., but none of the Soviet, no other country. I don't know any of those.
So, what museum ships have you been to?
Museum ships. Wow.
Like, have you ever been on a Liberty ship?
No, I haven't been on a Liberty ship, but I have been on ships. So, we have family that has usually, most of them have been in the Navy. We have a couple that were in the Army. But the ones that were on the Navy, one of our cousins, he invited me on the USS Carl Vincent while he was aboard. He was a nuke. So they used to joke a lot that he used to glow in the dark. So he invited me to go up to Alameda when they had the naval station up there and to go on his aircraft carrier to go have an air show, which was 50 miles off the coast of San Francisco. So I went and I stayed with him and we went on board and it was a really cool air show. I liked it. We were really close up to the launching catapults of the planes. They showed us how they launched them. So I got to see my favorite, which was the F-14 Tomcat. And they did an air show. They did a supersonic, which was pretty cool. I have a really good picture of the vapes coming off the wings from a old camera, actually, which came out really good. I couldn't believe that. So I still have it, the picture, and I want to make it into a bigger picture so I can frame it, but it came out really good. I also got to go on board the USS Abraham Lincoln while it was in port in Long Beach. That was due to the Fleet Week, so Fleet Week was there, got to do that. We also, your mom's cousin's husband used to be in Navy, so he was on a destroyer. He was on the USS Merrill, and I got to go see the USS Merrill, which is kind of funny because in 1985, with your grandma and your aunt, we took a trip to Yosemite. On the way back, we stopped in San Francisco, and it happened to be Fleet Week, so they had a destroyer and a frigate next to each other right there near Pier 39, and the destroyer happened to be the USS Merrill. So not only did I get to go see the USS Merrill while it was in their early 1980s configuration, but when your aunt got married to the sailor, he asked me to go and take him to a ship, and it happened to be the USS Merrill, but in its late or mid 1990s configuration. So now the USS Merrill is off the coast of Hawaii, underwater. They made it into a burial reef kind of thing. So it's helping the ecosystem there. So yeah. Oh, and it was also in the movie Pearl Harbor, which was made by what's his name that did Transformers.
Michael Bay.
Yeah, Michael Bay. Which I really don't like that movie.
Pearl Harbor?
Yeah. Some of the scenes that they did in CGI were great. I wish he followed through with all that. But there's a scene in the movie where there's a Japanese torpedo plane coming into Pearl Harbor, and it drops its bombs, and you see 3 destroyers right next to each other. Those are all modern destroyers, so I don't know why they couldn't CGI old destroyers on top of that, and one of them was the USS Merrill.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, wait, how old is the USS Merrill? Like, when was it made?
It was made, I believe, late 70s, and...
Oh, so it wasn't even like a...
No.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't even there during Pearl Harbor. So, yeah. So that was one of the things I didn't like, and then they also did... they showed a scene with the modern aircraft carrier in the Pacific, which, again, I think they're going to use it to CGI over it, but they didn't do it, and you could totally tell.
Well, I know one thing about that movie is that the RMS Queen Mary makes a cameo in the movie.
Yes.
Let's see. Maverick says, glad to hear that your dad went on board some CVNs. I'm currently on a LHD USS Bataan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. That's a cool ship. I like it.
Daniel asks, what are your thoughts on the Yamato battleship?
The Yamato battleship was very big. It was actually bigger than the USS Wisconsin and New Jersey. So it was, I believe 500 feet bigger or longer than the Wisconsin class battleships that we had. I think it was too big of a battleship, really, for it to do anything. I think that was one of its causes in being sunk. It was one of the main targets that the U.S. wanted to take down. It was supposed to be in a battle with the Wisconsin. I know that, but the Wisconsin went the wrong way. They were supposed to meet up to battle the Yamato, and the Wisconsin took a wrong turn and missed it by a day. It never met up with it, but I think the Wisconsin would have probably won because their 15-inch guns actually propelled the shell up to 25 or 27 miles, so that's pretty far. So I think they could have surprise attacked the Yamato and pretty much destroyed it real quick, I think. But the Yamato definitely is really big, or was big, and very fully stocked with a lot of different size cannons and stuff that they had. So yeah.
Was that the one where they had the tower that was just like
It was stacked and stacked. Yeah, I think there's like 4 different stacks on top of the mast. So yeah, it was really big.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of 2 warships that my friend pointed out to me that looked really weird. The other one that looked really weird was the USS Long Beach.
Oh, the USS Long Beach, yes. USS Long Beach was the second ship that was made that was nuclear powered. So the first one was the Enterprise, which participated in the blockade for Cuba during the Cuban Missile Crisis, and I believe the USS Long Beach was also there. They made it distinct, square shape.
It's like a superstructure.
Yeah, the superstructure was kind of square shaped, kind of mimicking the USS Enterprise at the time. So, yeah, and then the second nuclear one was a California type cruiser, but I don't think it was a California that was the second one to be built. I believe it was another one, but the California was eventually a nuclear powered cruiser. So.
You know, the USS Long Beach was one of the large military ships that welcomed the Queen Mary into Long Beach, and it flew signal flags that said "Welcome home, Queen Mary" when she arrived.
I did get to see it in San Diego, though. It was kind of surprising. I opened up the window of my hotel. I was staying at the Hyatt right there near the Embarcadero, and it was passing by, and I took some good pictures. It was really cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised it was there.
When I went to San Francisco, I think the last time, I went aboard the SS Jeremiah O'Brien, which was a Liberty ship. So that was pretty cool because that's the one they filmed the engines for the movie Titanic.
Yeah.
So, but that was a cool one, and that one still operates. So at some point I want to go back to San Francisco and book a little voyage on the Jeremiah O'Brien.
Oh, cool.
Because it goes out the Golden Gate into the sea and then it comes back.
Oh, well, I don't know.
Yeah, it's really, I think you would like it. And you can go down into the engine room and see everything. And
well, I know that I really wanted to go see the Enterprise when it was, well, first of all, when one of your cousins was on board. In fact, one of our relatives is in Top Gun, the original movie, and he's in the helmet that says P1, or 1P, I'm sorry, and he's a brown shirt. And if those of you that don't know, brown shirts are plane captains, but the plane captains are the ones that are in charge of the plane prior to handing off to one of the yellow shirts or anybody that is going to catapult the plane. But I guess the directors and the movie makers really like the hand signals that the plane captain does, so he's the one that's doing the two fingers and the palm. Those are all hand signals to check all the flaps and everything that moves on the plane to make sure everything's working prior to handing it off. And once they hand it off to the catapult directors, they also go through all the changes. So the white shirts do all the changes, also making sure that all the flaps and everything are still working once they hook it up to the catapult, and then it gets launched by the yellow shirt. So, but anyways, he was on there. I wish that when he came into San Diego that I was able to, go and do one of the tours with him. But I had to hear that his sister, your cousin, that when Marie got to go on the elevator, and the elevator was going up and down, so the elevator lifts the planes from the hangar to the top deck and vice versa. So I guess they were in either going up or down, but on the elevator it's graded so you can see down into the ocean. And so once it started moving, she was clinging to her husband and screaming and was afraid. So that was one of the funny stories that we heard. And I know that she's watching right now, so yeah, I told that story.
That was Marie?
Yeah, that was Marie.
Oh my god, that's funny. Geez, it seems like everybody here thinks you're more interesting than me. Everybody's like, is your dad staying here all week?
I actually moved up here, so this is my second week being up here. So, yeah.
What do you think of the Pacific Northwest?
I love it. It has rained ever since I got here. Yesterday and today, there is no rain, so it's been sunny. It took me a while to get used to getting up early, so this is my third day waking up early, so that's really good. And because it's been pretty dark, and I know it's going to get darker because we're going into winter, but coming from Southern California, I was up at 4 a.m. in the morning, first of all, to go to work, and second of all, it's just a different kind of climate. So I really love the cold weather. That I don't have a problem with. I don't like the heat, and I don't know why I stayed in Southern California so long.
It's the same with me. I've always wanted to move up north. I never liked Southern California. I've always wanted to live in San Francisco, but as I grew up, I kind of realized that was just an impossible dream.
Yeah.
Ozzy says, any snow yet? No snow yet.
No, but there was ice this morning.
There was, yeah.
Yeah, it was on my hood of my car. So yeah.
Yeah, early this morning I looked outside. Everything was covered in a layer of ice. Yeah. If it had continued raining through last night, it probably would have snowed. Mm-hmm. But the rain stopped, and we had literally like almost 2 weeks straight of rain. And it just barely lifted, and now we have 2 weeks straight of like partly cloudy days. So, mm-hmm. But when it rains, mm-hmm. it gets really dark even in the daytime, huh?
Mm-hmm. It does.
It feels like nighttime. Like I have to have all my lights on and stuff sometimes because it just feels like it's really dark. Allison says, try Florida. Never rains here. Not.
I've been in that rain. I've been to Florida twice, and very odd weather. When it's sunny, it rains, and when it rains, it's a tropical disaster, basically. It's really weird, yeah. I mean, I was in Epcot, and we had just gotten in. There was no rain. All of a sudden, the rain came down, and it was going sideways. And wind was blowing out of nowhere, and it was like a tropical weather, like you were in a hurricane kind of thing.
Was that when I was with you?
Nope.
Oh.
No.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I forgot that you went after that.
Yeah.
Oh, Ozzy says, has your dad ever been to the USS Midway Museum in San Diego?
No, but my cruise ship was parked right next to it. So I got to see it from there. I didn't go on it. I haven't gone to any military aircraft carriers or battleship museums that have been. Just haven't had the time.
No. Daniel, my dad did answer that question at great length, so I'm not going to repeat it. You'll have to go back and rewatch it. But right after you asked the question, he answered it at great length. It was about the Yamato.
Oh.
Yeah. Chris says the length of the IJN Yamato / Musashi were 839 feet, 11 inches. Beam is 121 feet. Draft 36 feet. Displacement 72,659 tons at full load.
Yeah. Very heavy ship.
Let's see. Malibu Company, how's it going? Malibu Company is a retired Imagineer.
Oh, okay. I've met a couple of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty neat. Did we have Thanksgiving with one of them? I feel like we did.
With an Imagineer?
Well, from the Imagineering department, but I wouldn't say a creative Imagineer. I feel like we did, unless I was having dinner with somebody else.
You're probably having dinner with somebody else.
Oh, okay. Kevin says, "Hey Alex, what's your dad's thoughts on the German battleship Bismarck?"
That one had no way in hell of a chance to go up against any of our Wisconsin type battleships. It was actually smaller. I think it was smaller by length by 200 feet, I think. Kind of weird because Hitler wanted to create a big navy at the time. They actually did commission an aircraft carrier, which didn't go anywhere. In fact, the aircraft carrier was moved from port to port, and it rusted, and Hitler wanted more battleships. So what they did was they canceled the construction of or to finish that aircraft carrier. It was moved back. They tried to make a battleship out of it, but the Bismarck was big, but not big enough, and the USS Hood. I'm sorry, not USS Hood. The HMS Hood from England took it out, I believe, and what they were trying to do, which the Germans were trying to do against the British, because the British had a big fleet, and they had a big fleet of destroyers and battleships, dreadnought type, both kind of ships. But the newer ones that they were building, they wanted to catch up to the British and make their fleet as big as theirs to compete with them, to basically destroy them and take over England, which never happened because there was a lot of factors, and a lot of factors was that basically Hitler wanted to take over land first before he went to sea, and so he made all his commanders focus on the land battles other than the sea battles. I believe if he would have done it the other way around and gotten a hold of his ships and, created those battleships and aircraft carriers, that he probably would have had a chance to overthrow the shipping lines within the English Channel there. And I believe that he probably could have surrounded the Alliance armies from the northwest side of France coming in back towards Germany. I think he would have been able to cut all those lines, but of course Hitler had his head up his what, and of course that's good for us, right?
Let's see. Someone asked me a question. Doc. Well, let's see. A story from Queen Mary during World War II. I don't have many, happy stories. I know that in the book that the recent chapter that I just put out discussed I was gonna say Hitler. Winston Churchill was on the ship. But I don't know any big stories or anything from World War II about anybody in particular. I mean, there was one story that somebody had actually told me when they commented on my channel that their father was on Queen Mary as it was crossing during a rather crazy storm. I think it was 1942 or 1943, and it was not the kind of storm where it was completely unsafe to be on the top decks. But I guess there was a bunch of GIs that were just up there kind of horsing around, and these two guys were roughhousing as the ship was rolling from side to side. And I guess at one point, as the ship had rolled to port, one of the guys who was roughhousing had tripped, and he fell overboard the railing as the ship rolled to port, and he fell off the ship and into the water. And the thing was that everybody who saw that suddenly went silent, because there was nothing anybody could do. The ship was not allowed to stop for anything or anyone with, over 12,000 troops on board. Otherwise, if they came to a stop, you never knew if there was a submarine nearby that could torpedo them. So everybody just realized, that the guy was just gone. He was stuck in the middle of the Atlantic during a storm, and when he fell off the ship. So, yeah, I don't have any happy stories to tell you guys, but that is a story that really stuck out in my mind. There's also stories of what it was like to be on board the ship, being a GI, being cramped in the quarters and having to be part of the. They got like a card that told them when their sleeping shift was in the bunks, and so basically, for one sleeping shift, the bunk would be occupied by one person, and then when that person was done, they'd have to switch out with the next person, and so in between that, there was really nowhere to relax or sleep. They just kind of had to sleep in the halls or out on deck, and so it was really difficult for a lot of people because there just weren't enough bunks for all the troops that were on board. Daniel says, Alex, would you rather save SS France or RMS Aquitania? If you mean SS France from 1910, well, I'd still save Aquitania either way. Nicolaus says, ask your dad if he's been on board the Pampatino next to the Jeremiah O'Brien and the USS Texas before it was dry docked. I don't think you've been on board either of those, have you?
Palpatino, is that the one that's in San Francisco? Because I want to say...
Yeah, San Francisco.
Yeah, I've been on that one. And I've been on the submarine that's parked right next to that. Which was in a movie with... what's the name that plays Fraser Crane?
Oh, Kelsey Grammer.
Yeah.
Was that the... That was that movie, that comedy that he did, right?
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it.
I think they named it the USS Shark or something like that. It was a funny movie. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I remember it being funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
So going back to the question, have I been on a museum ship? Then yes, I forgot about those. Yes, I have been on one or two.
Nicolaus, I'm not sure what you're asking. Something about Queen Mary and Texas versus aliens. I have no idea.
I did see the USS Texas being moved. They're going to refurbish it and they're going to have a new port for it. It is a museum. It is a battleship from World War II, but it still has its dreadnought look to it from World War One. So yeah, I did see that being moved, and there was a big deal apparently for it being moved because it was all over a lot of news channels and that kind of thing. So yeah.
Yeah, because it's over 100 years old, so
yeah,
people are obsessed with it now. It's being moved.
Mm-hmm.
I remember seeing that on Facebook and watching. There's a video of it being moved.
I have been to Pearl Harbor. Yes, I have been to the USS Arizona's memorial site, which is very touching. I didn't think it was going to be because prior to going to the memorial site, because you have to take a boat from the port there to go to the site, I did the museum part of it. Mm-hmm. And they had a new wing that told both sides of the story. So both sides of Japan and the U.S. and what the U.S. did to the Japanese Americans, which was a disgrace, really, in my opinion. It told all that, all three of those stories, and it made me cry. And I think it made me cry more for Japan than the U.S. I mean, the U.S. we're lucky to be living in this country with all the things that are going around in other countries. Don't get me wrong, this is a great country to live in. But the things that we as human beings have done in the past is very sad. And to hear those stories from the other side, from the other perspective, in that museum was just heartbreaking. And then to go to the USS Arizona and reading the names and looking at the site, because the site is still alive. I mean, you still see the oil is still seeping from the Arizona onto the surface of the water, and it still has the sheen of oil over it. And to imagine that that's still a living part of history that is doing that from World War II is just another part of the story, which is very heartbreaking. Mm-hmm. And I was very humbled by the whole experience of Pearl Harbor. So if you guys ever get to go to Hawaii and go to Honolulu, I would highly suggest doing that and taking that tour and looking at all the other pieces that they have, because it's not just the USS Arizona, it's also the other part of the museum, which has a lot of great other displays. Not only the midget submarine that they shot at and ended up on shore there, but they also have airplanes and all sorts of other things from World War II. And then, of course, the personal stories, which was great. There's also was a gentleman there. I don't remember his name because I know that we got a book and it was signed from him. It was his story about the attack on Pearl Harbor, and I believe he
Was
helped
there?
some people. Yeah, he was there. He helped some of the sailors get out of the burning ships and stuff. But he survived it, and he's there. He's pretty old, but he has his own book, and he was sharing his stories, sharing his book, and also you were able to buy his book. It was basically a donation, and then he was putting that donation back into the museum. So he is everyday kind of folk person there that is always there and is happy to tell his story and everything. Very interesting guy. I wish I remember what his name is, but I'm sure he's still there.
Yeah. Steve says the Kelsey Grammer movie was down Periscope.
Yes.
Ozzy, I don't think the USS Texas was moved on its own power. I think it was it was tugged.
It was tugged. It was tugged by two tugboats. One was the leading tugboat, and the other one was cruising alongside of it.
And it was on a floating barge too, wasn't it? I feel like I've seen it floating.
No, they put it on a floating barge once they got to the destination, but no, it was on its own. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because Ozzy was like, does your dad know USS Texas was moved on its own power? I'm like, it wasn't moved on its own power.
No, if you guys have ever been to any of the ship museums, and like not only a war museum, but even the Queen Mary, if you look at the engines, those things have been painted over, and it has layers of paint on it that you're probably looking at maybe 50 layers of paint on it, and there's no way that any of that would be able to function and move on its own power. So I believe it's the same way. I know the Wisconsin in Long Beach, I've seen some pictures and it's the same. They have layers of paint all over the place. I don't think any of that would work. You would have to really put in the time, the money to chip away at that paint and bring it all back to life again.
Yeah, and plus, like, you gotta think of, like, it's like I was saying on another live stream. You know, if you leave a car out just sitting for too long, too many years, the engine will just seize up. You won't be able to get that thing running again unless you take it apart, little tiny piece by piece. And so it's the same thing with those ships. Like, you can't just turn on their engines. You know, they've been sitting for so long. The Queen Mary's 2 remaining engines would probably be they're probably completely dry on the inside and completely seized up. So I doubt anything like that would move. And I've heard so many people that are like, oh, they should just install brand new boilers on the Queen Mary and then run her out. And I'm like, how? Like, you have to build all new engines too. Like, it's just not, you know. And then the propeller shafts, those things are so heavy, they actually bend slightly just sitting, not moving. And so, like...
Not to mention the hull. The hull is probably rusted and needs to be redone. So, yeah.
Well, that part, the hull on the Queen Mary does have rust on it, but it is not rotten through.
Yeah.
So I will have an update on the construction of the Queen Mary probably either this week or next week.
But going back to that, you saying about a car being sitting or having to sit there for such a long time and you have to work on it is true, because my very first car was a Plymouth Valiant, and me and my friends had to actually crankshaft that whole motor. So the timing belt and everything we have to move all by hand, so it would just get that oil going again and all that, because once you put in that key and you try to start it, it wouldn't start because the alternator wouldn't have enough power to move that part of the engine, because it was sitting there so long that all the oil had clumped up and just made a mess, and it basically acts like rust. Mm-hmm. And so you actually have to hand crank that whole thing and the fan and all that. So we did that for I think about 3 hours, and then it finally turned over and we got to move it. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But got the car for $500.
Jeez. And Steve says, Navy motto is, if it moves, salute it. If it doesn't, paint it.
Yes.
Let's see. Okay, well, the questions have died down, but yeah, so do you have favorite ocean liners?
Well, Queen Mary and the Titanic, those are cool. Other than that, I mean, the only thing that I've been on is cruise ships. So I was on the, what was it called? The Royal Caribbean, that departed from Long Beach. And it was a 4-night cruise, so it was pretty cool to go on there. It was my first cruise, and during dinner time, actually the last dinner time, was I told that I can have everything on the menu sent to my table at once. I thought I had to choose one item, one entree, one dessert, one this. It turned out that you can actually multi-order everything. And I wish that they would have told me that at the beginning, because I would have had a couple of other dishes. And the only way I found out was because I had asked the waiter what did he recommend, because I wanted to try the lobster bisque and I wanted to try another soup, and he says, well, why don't you have both? In fact, you can have all of them if you want. And I'm like, wait, what? So I'm like, now you tell me, and I've been tipping you all this. So I'm like, yeah, I'll have both. So that's how I found out.
Oh gosh.
Any other questions? No?
No.
All right. So my friends, let's see if any of my friends have a question. No, only that we all look fabulous on camera.
Oh, thanks.
And they like the sandwiches, and they also like the cookies.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are really. Do you like them?
Yeah, they're really good.
Yeah.
I like these. These are good.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Doc asks, what are some things that you and your dad are looking forward to doing? I'm not really sure, because I don't really know what is up here in the Pacific Northwest. I know that we want to kind of just roam around and go places and stuff, but I kind of have to do research on where to go and what to do, because mostly, like especially here in Portland, it's mostly just food, honestly. There's not very many, like...
Good food.
Yeah, not very many things to do. I almost went to the museum. I forget what it's called. It's the... There's a museum on the Willamette right in Portland. So, yeah, so I went there before, but I walked inside, I should say. I didn't actually, like, explore the museum, but when I walked inside, I was kind of like, that doesn't interest me. And the line was really, really long. They had an indoor queue for that line, which zigzagged a few times, and then the line stretched all the way to the outdoor queue. So that museum wasn't very good. I'm thinking about maybe my dad and I might go to the Japanese garden, which is in Portland. If you guys remember, I actually shot a video of myself. Like, I walked through the whole Japanese garden, and that was done in the rain, and it turned out to be a really cool video, you guys. So if you want to see that, that's on the channel. You can just look at my videos list and just go back all the way to March. Or you can type into the search bar on my page and just put, like, Japanese garden. It should pull up. And I think it's also in one of my playlists. I think it's in Everything About Anything. But it's a cool video. I filmed the whole Japanese garden in the rain. Really beautiful. So we might go to the Japanese garden and see what that looks like during this time of year. Which is probably similar to what it was like when I was there in March. But... we might also go to Seattle and see what's there. I went to Seattle with you, was it last Christmas?
Yes.
And we were this close to going up on the Space Needle. But I will admit, I'm glad that we did not do it because it was expensive. But I'm glad we didn't do it because when I saw what the Space Needle looked like in real life, I would have been scared out of my wits. I don't want to go up to the top of it. And my friend, after that, he went to Seattle and filmed himself. That's my friend Eric, for you guys that know. He went and walked around the top of the Space Needle looking down through the glass floors and stuff, and I can't do it. It's not in me.
That's okay.
But I did like the Seattle monorail, and I want to film that during the daytime, both trips, because I only filmed one trip, and that was at nighttime with rainy windows, so... I want to film it during the day so I have a nice record of it.
Mm-hmm. And that monorail was, it was designed by the same guy that helped design the monorail at Disneyland.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yep. It's the Alweg monorail. Yeah. And it was built in... Well, the one in Seattle was built in 1962. Which was the same year that they expanded Disneyland's monorail to go to the hotel.
Yes.
So, pretty cool. But yeah, if you guys know anything really cool to do either in Portland or Seattle or even just nearby, like a museum or something, let us know. Like we went to the, to the one in McMinnville, the Evergreen, so that's already crossed off the list. We've been to some of the local parks and things here. But yeah, and we went to the marketplace in Seattle. Mm-hmm. But if there's anything that you guys know that is in Portland or Seattle and you're like, oh, that's a cool museum, or here's a little like really cool thing you have to see that just so happens to not be on the guidebooks or whatever, let me know, because honestly, it doesn't seem like there is much else. It just seems like sightseeing most of the time, which is fine. I like sightseeing. But I know for one thing here in Portland, it's almost impossible to find a spot where you can look across the Willamette at downtown. There's nowhere to stop and do that. Because remember we were looking and there's no, on the other side of the Willamette, there's no like place to like park your car and just take a picture of downtown. That's weird. But
I do want to go back up to Mount Hood. Last time we went, we didn't get to go to it. We got a flat, but
we did. We got a flat last time we went up. We tried to go up to Mount Hood.
Yeah,
and I was internally freaking out because I thought we're never going to get off this mountain alive.
But I saw it this morning, and it's full of snow. Like it is completely full of snow from all the rain. So it looked beautiful this morning.
Tyler says, Alex, beard notwithstanding, you and Mr. Adner look alike. Thanks. Yeah, I don't think I'll ever grow a beard or a mustache. It doesn't look good on me.
I didn't think it would look good on me either, but I think it grew on me. No pun
Literally,
intended.
Yeah.
It was first a goatee, and then during COVID, I grew the beard, and I kept it. So, I don't know.
I prefer the goatee.
I still think I want to go back to the goatee.
Yeah, I think the goatee looked better.
Yeah.
Ozzy says, will you and your dad go to the Spruce Goose? We already went.
Yep.
I did a live stream there. So you guys can see the live stream. It was only, what, like a week or two ago?
It was last week.
Last week, yeah. So, yeah, check out the live stream. We were there. And then also I have a walk-around tour video of the Spruce Goose on the channel, which was put out like a month or two ago. So I have that on the channel as well. Steve says he visited the Japanese Rose Garden many, many years ago. The one here in Portland? Yeah, that one's pretty cool.
Yeah. We went to go see it, but it was closed the time that we went to go see it.
Yeah, because when we went, it was...
COVID.
Yeah, during COVID. So, but it's open now, so we should see it sometime.
Yeah.
Let's see. Goofy rolls. Yeah, I know. It's a cowlick. It does this sometimes. It just sticks up, and then no matter how much water or whatever I put in my hair, it just doesn't flatten back down. It is combed. I combed my hair before we started the stream. So Nicolaus, I don't think we'll be driving down to Sacramento.
I've been to Sacramento, and I did see some of the trains from the train museum there, but we didn't stay very long, and it was something really quick. In fact, you went with us. So it was during 2004 when we came up to Salem. So, yeah.
Yeah, if you guys are going to suggest places within a 3-hour radius from Portland, because that's what we can reasonably drive to in one day. We can't go down to... Not that we'd want to go down to Sacramento, but we can't go down to Sacramento anyway because that's like a 10-hour drive. So...
I mean, if I'm going to Sacramento, I might as well go to San Francisco, which is number one.
Which is something I want to go... I want to go back and see San Francisco because I haven't been... Like, Remember, we used to go like
Yeah.
all the time when I was a kid, but the last time I've been to San Francisco just for fun was in 2013. So I really want to go back and see it all again. And I know like some of my friends really want to meet me there and like go to the Walt Disney Museum and and stuff like that. So I really want to see the city again. We passed through it when we moved up here 2 years ago, but it's not the same as stopping and enjoying the city. But yeah. Steve says, Alex, have you and your dad driven out along the Columbia River and visited Multnomah Falls? We tried, but when we went, Multnomah Falls was closed that day. So I think it was just, I don't know, something was washed out there or something like that.
Something.
Yeah.
Plus, it was COVID too. So
yeah, but we did end up stopping at a few places. We stopped at Bridal Falls. We stopped at Latourell Falls. And
we
then
went to the Rooster Red.
We drove past there was a place to stop near Rooster Rock. I'm trying to be careful what I say because there's a nude beach there, so I don't want people to think like we went to the nude beach. So, but yes, there's a place where you can park and like walk out to the river near Rooster Rock somewhere. But let's see. Linda says Seattle has a museum of pop culture. Well, I'd like to see like a historical museum. Oh, I know they have the Seattle Underground.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I want to see that.
I do want to see that.
Chris says, do you think that an Iowa-class battleship would survive a collision with the same iceberg that sank Titanic?
I think it would, because battleships are made differently. They have armor plating in certain areas, and the certain areas would be right along the water line. So, and that's due to torpedoes and that kind of thing. So, yes, I think it would survive.
Yeah. I don't have any input because I don't know anything about warships, but somebody said it's a good balance because I know about ocean liners, you know about warships. So everybody's getting what they want.
Oh, good.
Let's see. Octarian, this is my father. So, hello.
Hi.
Doc says, look up a Fraser Crane Seattle tour.
I do want to do one of those because I know one of those does exist.
It does?
Yes. It does exist, and it's funny. I think it would be funny to go on one of those tours.
That would be cool, because I'm a big fan of the show Frasier, so yeah, I'd like to see that. Oh, okay. Hello, Jimmy. Ozzy says you can always wear a hat like your dad has on. You know, it's funny. I have, a fedora that I wear. It's my signature look. It's the, you've seen my profile picture has me with a fedora on. It's a cartoon, but still. But every time I put a fedora on, people get all upset at me. You can't wear a hat inside. And then when I don't wear it, people are like, you should wear a hat. So I'm like, I don't no idea what people want from me. Let's see.
Well, I'm wearing a hat because I didn't want to put product in my hair today. So there you go.
Visit Tacoma. What's in Tacoma?
I think there's something in Tacoma. I know that. But there's also what do you call it? Hot spas, natural spas here in Oregon, in the east, I think, that we can visit. Also, there is their volcanic hot springs too. So
Mhm.
they're nearby also.
And then Washington has Olympia National Park. And that one I've always kind of wanted to see. Have you ever seen like documentaries on Olympia?
I've seen some.
It's
Yeah.
pretty cool. Although I just don't want to be eaten by a bear, so, you know. I'm always frightened that I'm going to go on these trails and there's going to be a bear there. I see all these videos on YouTube of people who are, like, a bear is slowly stalking them and they're trying to, like, carefully walk away.
Well, on the way up here, moving here, I did see a flock of wild turkeys.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they're right next to the road, and I was like going to take a picture, but I was driving.
Oh, yeah. Good thing you didn't. The turkeys
yeah.
would have been the last thing you saw.
Yeah, they're right there near Grants Pass.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and yeah, it was kind of weird to see them there, just feeding along the side of the road. So, yeah, I was like, Thanksgiving, yes.
Yeah, I can't wait for Thanksgiving. Nicolaus says Astoria, Oregon. Yeah, Astoria is a pretty cool looking place. I don't know what there is to do there, but you know what Astoria is.
I think so, yes.
It's the town that they filmed Goonies.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. But you've been there too.
No, I've been to the beach, Cannon Beach.
Okay.
And those are two different parts of Oregon, so...
I know along the coast of Oregon, there's a lot of great places that you can hike down to the beach to, and a lot of just beaches full of beechwood. So washed up wood that has been in the ocean for a long time, and there's just a bunch of places there that I would like to go and take pictures of. So
yeah, when we went to Cannon Beach, there was all kinds of beechwood washing up, and then there was like lots of stuff, and the sand was this dark volcanic color. It was pretty cool. Mark, good to see you. It's too bad we were on mute the whole time. He muted us.
oh,
Let's see here. Chris says, one of these days you should visit Marceline, Missouri for Walt Disney Museum, and they also have Railroad Museum stuff. I'm not going to go all the way out to Missouri to see a Walt Disney Museum. Missouri is in the middle of nowhere. I don't want to go to Missouri. Let's see. Kobe says, could you check out the steamer Virginia V? Is that up here somewhere? Is there... I never heard of it. Steve says, I hate wild turkeys. They are mean, annoying birds.
yes.
Same
I've seen them attack people, so that was another reason why I didn't stop. Talking about getting eaten by a bear, you probably got eaten by a wild turkey.
Oh, the Columbia Lightship and Astoria Maritime Museum is in Astoria.
Okay.
Okay. Tyler says, if you're looking for extra cash, you should play Santa.
I've been told that several times. I do not want to play Santa.
He doesn't like kids. Snowing Aviation says, have you ever bought anything aboard the Queen Mary as a souvenir? No. And I'll tell you why. Because when I went to the Queen Mary with my friends, I had every intention of buying a souvenir to take home. Because I thought, like, museums usually have really cool souvenirs. When I went to the Titanic Museum, when it came to what's that city that Knott's is in?
Oh, Buena Park?
Buena Park. When Titanic Museum came to Buena Park, I went and I got a replica dessert plate from Titanic First Class, which is a really cool thing to walk away with. Well, I went to Queen Mary thinking I'll buy something along those lines or anything that's really, really cool. But all they had for souvenirs was like tacky souvenir stuff, like postcards maps. There might have been a poster or two, but I didn't want a poster. They did not have any replica dinnerware or anything from the Queen Mary being sold there. They had snow globes and tacky keychains. They didn't have anything interesting. I think the best thing they had was a teddy bear that was dressed as like a hotel bellboy. Not even a Cunard bellboy, a hotel bellboy. So there was nothing interesting to buy there. And that always upsets me because merchandise is one way a business makes a lot of money. But without anything cool to buy, why would anybody spend money on merchandise? When I was there, I didn't really see anybody buying anything. You know, like, who really wants a snow globe these days?
Yeah.
A plastic one at that, not even a real glass one.
Well, I remember when we went, I wanted to get a model, hoping that they would have a model of the Queen Mary, but they had a model of other Cunard ships, which was kind of weird. So when we asked, they're like, oh, they haven't made one, or they haven't made one lately. It was an excuse of that type. So
Yeah.
kind of weird. Because, you know, you have this model here. It would be great to have a model of the Queen Mary when you go visit. You know, some people like to build models, like I do and like Alex does, and you would want to do that. So
Yeah, I mean, that was, that's what I was looking for when I went with my friends in 2020, was I thought, okay, well, if not, like, another cool souvenir, maybe I'll just buy a model of the Queen Mary. They didn't sell any. They didn't have any. I think the best thing they had was, like, a die-cast, like, miniature of the Queen Mary, but it wasn't interesting to me. It was, like, more like a paperweight, but it wasn't interesting to me.
Yeah.
It wasn't even accurate looking. So yeah, and that's when I went on that long journey that took 2 years for me to finally just accept that there are no good models of the Queen Mary out there. Any that are close to good were made by Naval in like 1986, so they're not good looking at all.
no, Ravel, you really have to modify Ravel type of models. You have to add on to it. You have to buy etched railings and such, or anything that you buy from Ravel. And I know that Ravel's, the company, has been trying to update their moldings and stuff like that, but they still come out to be pretty tacky. I don't like it. You have to put in a lot of work to make it look really good. And there's Chinese model companies out there like Trumpeteer and that kind of thing that do a lot better at their molding, even though I think they might team up with another company that does like etched kind of metal etching that you can add on to the ship. I think they do that so that they can sell more accessories to add on to your ship, but even so, Trumpeteer does a pretty good job at making ships, and I know that they do a lot of modern warships and also World War II ships, and they're good. I like them.
Yeah, they recently did a 1/200th scale Titanic, and that one, a lot of you guys will know because the Titanic Honor and Glory team helped with the accuracy of that model. So it's the most accurate model you can buy of Titanic in 1/200th scale, especially. But it's 4 feet long. I don't have room for a 4 foot long model. Otherwise, and plus it was like almost $500, so there was no way I was going to get it.
I know they make a 1/350th scale of it too. So
Trumpeter?
I think it trumpet. Yeah, I think they.
Oh, but yeah, but their
Yeah.
1/200 scale is the only one that's accurate.
Yeah.
The other one is still outdated, but
Yeah.
And then this Titanic here behind me is my 1/350th done by Minicraft, and it's pretty good. It needs to be really refurbished. It's in really bad shape. I know it doesn't look like that to you guys, but if you were to sit as close as we are, you can see all the problems with it. But and it's been beat up pretty badly.
And they sell the photo etch accessories also for this ship too. So
Yeah, I'm gonna buy the photo etched accessories for it because I like this. I didn't. One of the things that's not on here is railing. I didn't put railing on the ship because the one that came with the model was really inaccurate, and it was also not in the right scale. So it's just really, chunky. So I wanted to get stuff that looked better, and Plus, all the rigging is coming apart. Like, I don't know what it is, Dad, but the rigging that they gave me is it's almost like a cotton thread.
Yeah.
And as the seasons go by, it'll expand and contract to the point where now it's all loose.
Yeah.
And so I bought a spool of nylon thread. It's like upholsterer's thread. So I thought maybe the nylon thread won't do the same thing. So we'll see if I redo it.
What I've seen some modelers do is that they take really fine wire and they do that instead. So they use that instead.
Yeah.
And it's made from the same brass photo etching stuff that they make. And you can do that instead and it will hold up a lot better, I think.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to work with photo etch stuff either in 1/700 scale or even in the 1 350th scale. You have to be very careful when you bend the railing when it needs to be bent and you're going around a curve or a corner. It springs back. So you have to be very careful. And I don't know if going piece by piece and gluing it while you're going around like the aft area, when you're going around that type, you might have to do it section by section while you're gluing it. But you need a really good glue that will has adhesive, and adhere to the plastic and the metal at the same time. So
yeah, and the glue I was using for this, which was a normal model glue, it would not adhere to the paint on the model. So when I tried to glue everything, it would just come right back off again. So I ended up using super glue to get everything down. And the super glue ended up creating light spots in the paint. So I don't know, it bleached parts of the paint wherever it was touching. So it was really a mess. I don't like working with plastic model kits anymore. That's why I switched to ON30 scale on my train set, because I can make everything out of wood. Everything, when you make stuff with wood, it just makes sense. So, yeah. I'll probably have you work on the Titanic. Okay, so let's see if there's any more questions. Nicolaus says, go to Portland's Chinese tea garden. I'm going to say no on that. Me and my friend Chris were going to go to the tea garden. We looked at it on pictures. We were like, it's cool, but it's really, really small.
it is,
and
small.
it's expensive. So, like, we went to the one in San Francisco. That one's huge. Absolutely ginormous. So, I don't know. I don't want to see the one in Portland. But I did like the Japanese garden, which is huge. And, you know, it's up on the hills.
So my friend Janine wants to know more about these biscuits.
Oh, those ones?
Yeah.
So this is the Scottish shortbread. So it's basically just shortbread, honestly. And it only has 4 ingredients. It has flour, butter, salt, sugar, yeah. Flour, butter, salt, sugar. And that's really it. I think there's probably more butter in it than there's flour. So,
It does taste buttery.
yeah. I overcooked these a little bit, so they're a bit singed. But normally they're very, very soft and cakey. So, like, normally when you bite into them, your teeth sink right into them. But these turned out more crunchy because I left them in there a bit too long. But yeah, they're really good, and
They're still good, yeah.
Yeah,
I like them.
and it's a true Scottish recipe, which I'm not really sure if that really matters because all shortbread cookies are the same recipe unless you add something to it like vanilla or like lemon. What do you call it? Zest. Yeah. So you can add lemon zest to it, but these are just like plain flavor because that's what they would have, like on the Queen Mary, for instance. Yeah, I try to serve like stuff that would have been served on the Queen Mary during one of the crossings, but they also had really extravagant pastries too, which I just don't feel like making for a short tea time. You know, putting hours of work into a finely crafted pastry. The steamship Virginia V is in Seattle. Interesting. I'll have to look it up. Maybe we'll go see it. Kobe says, your father's hat looks like the hat you have on your profile picture drawing. And not really. That's not even a fedora, is it? That's...
No, it's just a pork pie hat. So.
Yeah, pork pie hat. I have a fedora. I'll go put my fedora on.
Yeah, this is a pork pie hat. I liked it. A lot of 80s kids when I was growing up, they wore them. They basically wore them back in a lot further back, higher up, showing their bangs. But it's been featured in Breaking Bad, so he had a pork pie hat also. So yeah.
That's right. A lot of people in the 80s had a pork pie hat.
Yeah.
Strange. Strange people. Let's see. Let's see. Carl, hello, this is my dad, here too known as father. Greg says, I'd like to visit Mount St. Helens if I ever made it to Washington. Let's see. Yeah,
I would like to too, but I know it's still active, so yeah, no.
Yeah. I have, so my great-grandfather had went to Mount St. Helens sometime after, like, I think the same year after its big eruption, so that was 1980, and he collected a jar of ash, so fresh ash from there.
No.
What do you mean?
Your great-grandfather didn't go to Mount St. Helens. It was actually a friend of theirs that still, I think, lives here in Portland. Him and his wife were living here, and it exploded, and they collected the ash and sent it to them.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that takes away some of the magic. But it's still
Yeah.
ash from Mount St. Helens.
Yes.
So I have that jar of ash.
Hey, that's why you have me here.
I had it all in my head that, I could see Grandpa just like walking on this mound of ash and just picking up a jar of it.
No, he did travel a lot, but he didn't go there. He wasn't anywhere near. He was living in Santa Ana at the time. And yeah.
Oh, okay. Nicolaus says, the box cover art on Ravel is always the best part, not the actual models.
Very true. But you always get really good artists that do artwork on boxes, and they're just awesome. You just want to actually keep the box and not the model sometimes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and back to the Queen Mary model thing. There are no Queen Mary models that are in the same scale as this Titanic. There are no 1/350th scale Queen Mary models. The only one that exists is made of paper. So that is another thing. And I was talking to some people, and we think it's because some organization, I don't know whether it's the city of Long Beach or it's one of the current operators of the Queen Mary, but that we believe that they own the rights to the image of the Queen Mary. And so to make models of the ship, they have to license out that right. And they just have never come to an agreement with any model makers since the 80s.
Which is dumb, because that's where their money making is right there. They can put that in the museum there. They can sell them every time a visitor comes in.
Yeah.
I don't know who's in charge of that, but they need to rearrange their whole way of looking at that whole museum and invest in it. Have somebody come in, a company, take pictures of everything and make it into a 1 in 350th scale, 1 in 700 scale, something. Because I know those two, I mentioned 1 in 700 scale and 1 in 350 scale because those are the popular scales that everybody likes to work in. So 1/350th gives you a lot of detail on your model without going too big, and 1/700 scale you still keep that detail, but it's a little bit more smaller, and if you don't have too much room to display something, you would probably want to go in that scale. So,
Yeah. So, and then the other thing too is that by licensing out the Queen Mary image, they could also make toys for kids who come there. So
they can make toys, they can make new artwork, new photography, anything. Anything to get people to come in and view it and go home with something of that ship would be awesome. I mean, even when we went to go see Spruce Goose, they have stuff with Spruce Goose.
Yeah.
And they have a really cool looking model display. It's not a model that you can build, but I know that they do have them, and they're going to replenish it in about a month, I think they said, right?
About a month, yeah.
Yeah, and it's really great.
This is the toy that they sell of the Spruce Goose. So that's the toy. It's probably 1/450th scale, I believe, if it's a scale at all. And then the other really cool thing they have is this is a keychain, but it's made of the exact same wood laminate that the Spruce Goose is made of. So this is extra wood laminate from the 1940s that they have etched a image of the Spruce Goose on that they sell as a keychain.
Yeah.
So you can literally walk away with, in technicality, a piece of the Spruce Goose.
Yeah.
So that's pretty neat. They don't sell stuff like that on the Queen Mary. And there's actually lots of stuff they could sell.
They do a nice little burning etch of the Spruce Goose onto that piece of wood. But yeah, they have extra pieces of the wood to sell to you, and they have 2 or 3 different kinds of versions of it. We liked the one with the picture of the Spruce Goose. There's another one that just says Spruce Goose. There's another one that has something else, but it's great to have something of the Spruce Goose that they sell that you can take home, and they should have the same thing for the Queen Mary. I mean, there's got to be stuff that I know that they're not using. They could take a piece of metal, make little keychains or whatever, and you have something of the Queen Mary to take home with. So,
Steve says, you and your dad have you guys been out to the Fort Stevens State Park out near Astoria? No, we haven't. But is there anything there interesting to see? Because keep in mind, guys, that if we're gonna drive for hours to get somewhere, we want something to see. So
I want to see, like, if there is a fort, and if it's a fort from the 1800s, that would be actually kind of cool to see. If it's logwood, that kind of thing. I know when I went to New York and I went to Lower Manhattan, they have the old Dutch fort of the Dutch when they went to New York, and they made it an establishment there. And then later on, after the Native Americans sold the island to the Americans, I know that they used the Dutch fort as a U.S. fort during the Revolutionary War, which of course they lost Manhattan during that time, but they regained it after the Revolutionary War. But it's great to go in, and you can still walk into that fort and look around and that kind of thing. It's good to see.
One of the other forts I liked going to was Fort Point in San Francisco.
Yeah, Fort Point, Fort Scott. Yeah, the Presidio. Oh my God! And right now the Presidio, it looks so different.
It does. Yeah.
Yes, because they've opened it up to commercial and real estate. So now people are living in those houses that used to belong to the officers. So generals, colonels.
And when I was a kid, we'd drive through there, and most of those places were abandoned.
They were abandoned. They were empty. I wonder how many ghost stories people have from there.
Yeah, I'd want to know too.
Yeah, because right there in the Presidio is the big cemetery, also right across from those houses. So
Yeah, does anybody know somebody who lives in the Presidio? I'd like to know if their house is haunted. I'd really like to know.
I mean, I've heard of people saying that they've seen Civil War armies march to the streets there. I've seen people stories about other Civil War people, because in San Francisco during the Civil War you had Fort Point, Fort Scott, the Presidio, not to mention Alcatraz, which were all forts. So, and that was all due to thinking that the South was going to come through the Panama or around the Rock of Gibraltar and come with their navies and attack the west side. So, yeah.
Hello, Derek. All right. Well, it has been 2 hours, folks. So I am going to say we are done today with the live stream. So thank you, Dad, for joining us.
You're welcome. It was cool. I liked it.
Yeah, and we got to talk a lot about ships and stuff, which I'm sure you guys all liked because you guys have a lot of questions about. They always ask me about warships, and I don't know a single thing about them. So, yeah, you know a lot more about warships than I thought you did, to be totally honest.
I am a fountain of miscellaneous knowledge. I mean, I love history. That was one of my things in high school and college that I liked to assert myself into, and I was really good with history. So not only that, I mean, lately I've been looking at paleontology, so I've been looking at the Neanderthals, which is wrong, by the way. It's called Neanderthals, I think. It's a T, not a TH, so yes. So yeah, Neanderthals. Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So that's very interesting to me, because lately a lot of scientists have been learning a lot new stuff about them. So that, along with dinosaurs, I've been watching that, and of course, history of World War II. Not too much history of World War I. I don't know why it doesn't interest me as much, but yeah, I mean. Civil War interests me, Revolutionary War interests me, samurai history really interests me, because it's something that we don't know too much of, and very barbaric sometimes, even though you think samurai would be very restrained and, you know, very calm about Buddhist way of things, but no, very, very interesting. I like that. So.
Yep. All right, folks. And remember that if you know somewhere that is really worth a visit up here in the Pacific Northwest, Oregon, Washington, basically, and it's literally worth driving several hours to go see, and not just something small that we drive several hours and we're like, oh, okay, let's drive back, then let me know in the comments section, because we are looking for more places to visit. Especially in the big cities like Portland and Seattle. So, yeah, and suggest places to eat too. Also, if you know like a really, really good restaurant that, you know, not like a burger joint, but I mean like, you know, like
I'm a cool foodie.
Yeah, so. We're foodies. So yeah, so let me know in the comments section. And yeah, maybe we'll have Dad on more often to talk to you guys about warships. So... All right. Yes. Well, then, that is all for today, folks. I will see you all on Sunday. Bye-bye.